Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zorich Podcast. I am Chris Zorich, and on today's show, we have an amazing individual, but a little bit more importantly, a huge legend in Notre Dame lore, 14-year NFL alum, four-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and if I had a vote, this year's Hall of Fame. I don't have a vote, but if I did, you would definitely be in this year. Now, here's an amazing thing. I'm going to play a video that my wife made because if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble. So, y'all, I got to do the video. Hold on a second. Hold on. All right, man. I had to play that, man. If I didn't play that, I was going to be in trouble.
Man, you're like I said, you have to do that. You got to take care of mama, and that's necessary.
Absolutely. So what I was trying to say before is that this is kind of exciting for me because we actually overlapped a couple years, and my senior year, after my junior year, there was talk of me maybe coming out. And I did not come out. However, I had a fifth year left. And I had an okay senior year, but there was this young buck behind me that I was afraid, actually, if I came back, that I wouldn't play. So you are the reason why I didn't stay for my fifth year. So just thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was going to be a while for me to play had you stayed. And so but was grateful because you took advantage of an opportunity to go play in the NFL. And you left room for the young bucks to come up. And I appreciate that, Chris.
Oh, you're being so kind. This is awesome for me because not only did we spend some time at Notre Dame together, but amazingly, we are both from the Chicago area. And for a long time, there wasn't a lot of talent, or folks didn't think there was a lot of talent. There was a lot of talent in the Chicago area. And if you look at what Holtz did when he got there, and by the time he left, I mean, half of his roster, or maybe a quarter of his roster each year, literally were people from Chicago. You're very active on social media. And before I get into talking about your great football feats, I'd like to actually talk about some great news you guys got either yesterday or a couple of days ago. And I saw this on social media, and it was awesome. But you got a daughter that just got accepted into Yale?
Yeah, we had she did an early application, and she just found out yesterday. She was one of 837 applicants, but out of that it was like 7,830 something, and so she was like 10.5% of the ones that got accepted to Yale, and so we're just super excited for her. She wasn't initially going to apply because she just wasn't sure, but it was a school of interest, and she put forth the effort, applied, and quite naturally she's a very hard worker, and academically she meets the requirements, and we're just super excited that it happened for her. And just one of those moments, we have to just celebrate and support her where she's at.
That is awesome, and man, that's great.
Yeah. I'm like, man, she's way smarter than me and her mom put together.
Well, I'm sure, but I mean, the understanding of what that means. I mean, and actually, we were talking a little bit before the show, And you're doing a lot of homeschooling right now. Your house is kind of crowded. Talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So we initially have 6 kids. One is which is in heaven right now. But initially, our first 3, maybe a little bit of the 4th one, we homeschooled them. So that was their foundation. We started off homeschooling. And our oldest daughter, of course, she's had the most. She had about 7 years of homeschool. And then I started coaching and moving around, and we wound up finding a school that was a co-op or had a homeschool model, which allowed us to have 2 days of homeschool and them being in school for 3 days. So we did that, but we did homeschooling for a while. It was great for our kids. We pieced together our own curriculum with research. My wife did a wonderful job, really. I was the principal, the dean, and I taught a lot of different classes and substituted as well.
Wow, that's awesome.
Kudos to my wife. But so fast forward, years go by, and our youngest 2, who are in the 2nd and 4th grade, we just didn't feel comfortable enrolling them in school this year. So in the spring, they went to home learning, and then they did okay with that. But just being in front of a screen all day, and I know that's what it is, and some people thrive in that environment. But we just felt like we could do more if we just pulled them out completely and start homeschooling them again. So it's been fun. Yeah, it's been really fun for them. We get a chance to really kind of go back and just really just patch up the foundation, pour into them, and just really be in their lives at this point. And then the last 2 weeks, actually, our kids' school. So our kids did go back to school. I have a 9th and a 12th grader as well. And so the last weeks, they had a couple outbreaks, and they shut school down, and they had to come home learning. So we had a house full of kids the last couple weeks.
That is awesome. So, I mean, you're grading papers and you're helping them with everything, or?
Yeah, well, grading papers, building the curriculum. I do Bible and PE, and I'm the disciplinarian. I'm the principal, dean of discipline.
That's great. Well, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that because, I mean, the idea that, you put together a great foundation. Your Christian has been phenomenal. And really, when you talk about really what a foundation start with, it's education. And when you're able to kind of see the end result, and it's so successful, you guys got to feel great about that.
Yeah, we do. We know we understand that could open up a lot of doors, and that's why our hearts are there too in terms of supporting in those areas. But that is really the key. I mean, when you have a foundation like that, it really can open up a lot of doors, and information is king. And we just want to make sure that we expose them, that we give them opportunities that we may didn't have. And I know my parents didn't have, and they afforded that for me and my brothers. And so we want to make sure that as parents that we do our job and make sure that we provide all that they need to thrive.
That is great. That is great. So I'm going to make a little transition here to you mentioned a little bit before your family, and you actually grew up in Chicago Heights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for folks who may not know, that's about 30 miles south of Chicago.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And it's not a perennial kind of powerhouse, right? I mean, it's not a football powerhouse.
We were a football powerhouse, Chris. Come on now.
Later. When you were there, in the beginning.
No, we were okay. My time when I was there, we had you remember a kid, Chet Lahetta, who actually was from
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, but we had some kids in the area. We had, of course, the Chicagoland area. It is, rich with some talent there. But as far as my high school, we were in the SuperBowl East. We played some stiff competition in our conference. So we were a playoff team each year. There were a couple times where we were like 6-3. We had just missed the playoffs. And we just didn't get in on the point system. And then my last 2 years, my junior, senior year, we were very fortunate enough to play in the playoffs. And it was just great. But we had some talent. I think at times we probably didn't maximize our talent as much as we should have or could have.
Well, so in the beginning, I mean, did you come from a football family? I mean, did your brothers play? I mean, Pops play?
Absolutely not.
How did?
Yeah, it was just my dad. He played a little bit in high school, but really wasn't, like he was a fan, but he was like kind of a passerby fan, fair weather fan, and never went to a game. We, to this day, my dad kind of regrets that. Like, man, I wish I would have took you guys to a game. Not that he didn't want to, because he spent a lot of time with us, but it just wasn't like something that he, just thought to do at that time. But the kids in my neighborhood, we would always play, tackle football. First it was touch football in the streets, pole to pole. Cars pass by. And we found this open field. It was all unorganized, and we would play tackle football. And all the way up until junior year, I didn't play any organized football, and so it was just tag in the street, or it was tackle football, taking heads off in the park. It was you pad up with clothes, not with equipment.
Absolutely. I remember those days. Absolutely.
Learn to play, just doing it the rough way. But it was a lot of fun, just kids being kids. But there were a couple kids in my neighborhood who did have the opportunity to play on organized Pee Wee teams, and I just wasn't, really in tune to doing it at that time. And so my first time playing wasn't until my freshman year. And so that's when things.
I'm assuming you walk into your high school and your coach has to be the varsity coach had to be salivating when he saw you.
Well, yeah, but I didn't play. I only played. Well, I got moved up at the end of the season when we made the playoffs, and we didn't even get in the playoffs. It was just, all right, we'll dress you if we play, but I never played. So I played freshman football on the A team.
Well, okay, but
so it was raw. Like, it was really raw. Like, I knew how to compete. I loved to compete. I was tough. I had those things, and I had the drive and the want-to. And I didn't have, all the information of football IQ. Even though I watched some football, I played it, but it was just a learning curve in terms of just it being new to me, understanding the game, really what position I wanted to play. I'm going to tell you what, I got a great story. The very first time I go out to play football, it's in the summer. And me and my friends, God rest his soul, Nate McGuire, he was like, Brian, you should be a fullback. I could see you running the ball like Matt Suey. And so I'm like, yeah. I thought I'd be a fullback running the ball. I was like, I could do that. So I go out. Coach calls it up. We're all huddled up. And, he says this little spiel. This is right before, at the beginning of camp, and we're about to start drills. And everybody has, the tape on their helmets to signify who you are, Young, Johnson, whatever. And so he said, well, now when I break you guys, I want you to go to your position groups. He was like, all right. He was like, D-line over here, O-line over here, running backs over here. And so I started going to the running backs. I was like, yeah. Then he was like, Young over here.
So the D-line was the O-line.
I never got my shot to play running back or fullback. And I had these big ideas that I could be potentially a Tom Rathman, Matt Suey type guy. But he was like, man, this guy got some size. We're going to put him on the line to start.
So you didn't start playing until your sophomore year?
So I played my freshman year. I just played on the freshman team.
Okay.
So freshman A team. We had a freshman, an A, and a B team. And so we went undefeated. We had a really good freshman team. We had guys that, wound up playing in college.
Wow.
And some guys played basketball as well. But we had some really good talent. And we went undefeated. I think we played 9 games. We were 9-0. And there was about maybe a handful of guys that were pulled up from varsity that were going to dress for that playoff game if we hadn't made it. And then until the next year, my sophomore year, that I played varsity. So I go freshman, then sophomore year, I go varsity all the way through. Okay.
All right. Nice. So how was that? I mean, being a young kid on the varsity, I mean, did you have to learn everything? I mean, how was it?
It was great. I got immersed in my freshman year. It was like, man, I took my lumps. But the one thing I was always going to compete, and you weren't going to outwork me. I may not have knew what I was doing all the time, but I figured it out quick. Once I got the playbook and understood what my job was, and but really it was just about going out there competing, finding the ball, tackling, being tough, getting up the next play when you get knocked down, and so you learn that quick. And I think I had some of those things innately built in me, but just learning the game, it got better each year, and so the coaches saw something in me my sophomore year where they moved me up, and I was able to play varsity all the way through. And to play with you at Notre Dame.
When did you fast forward a little bit? When did you start getting calls from colleges? I mean, was it your junior or senior year, or we started your junior year, or?
Yeah, so I started getting some letters toward the end of sophomore year, just some real small schools, but it really started to pick up my junior year.
Okay.
And so I had schools that would send the questionnaires, of course, and then actually there was a couple schools I wasn't even on their radar. In fact, Notre Dame, I don't think I was on their radar. I had a really good friend of mine by the name of Marcus Walker, who's a really good linebacker, and
okay.
And of course, we had a player that had went to Notre Dame the year before,
right?
But they would come by and check Marcus out, and Chet was a senior at the time, and so I think through them watching him and discovering, and trying to evaluate him as a player, I was discovered by them. That's how I kind of got on their radar. But
nice.
The attention grew, and it opened some doors. Then I took some visits. I went to a couple camps. Went to the Illinois camp in my summer after my junior year. And then my senior year, just things just were just wide open by then. Mm-hmm.
So normally, I ask guys what their 5 final visits were. Do you remember what your 5 were?
Yeah, my 5 were there was Notre Dame, Michigan, Tennessee, Michigan State, and then Illinois, because they were just recruiting me so heavily. And I almost flipped it. Georgia was recruiting me pretty heavily, and I felt like that because I had built a great rapport with Illinois, and they were close, and I just felt like that was an easy visit right down the road. Of course, I did a camp there too, so I did know a little bit about the campus already, but just because it was convenient. And so I didn't take that Georgia trip. I regret that. I wish I would have. I could have potentially been a Georgia Bulldog as well. I don't know.
That's insane, man. So obviously you went to Notre Dame. So what was the pitch? I mean, did Holtz come there and do a magic trick for your parents that you've done for everybody else? How did that work out?
Actually, my mom and dad were at work when they came by for a home visit. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So there were like four guys in the area during that time we came out. Oliver Gibson, Pete Bursage, and Brian Hamilton. And so Lou and Lou and George Kelly, got arrested. Right. George Kelly, they came by the house, and so they had made their around the Chicagoland area to hit all those guys. And he came by, and we're sitting at my dining room table, and he's giving this recruiting pitch and this spiel, and I coincidentally, there was a friend. He knocked on the door at the time. He knew Lou was over. I told him about that, so he got a peek at Lou. But we're sitting at the table, and Lou's talking. George is sitting there. He's telling me all about Notre Dame. And then as he was talking, this is 89. And so y'all had just won the national championship in 88. And so the championship ring, all I could see was that ring and hear it as he was tapping on the dining room table. And so, shun. And I just kept hearing that, the knock. And so it had my attention. But he did an awesome job. But actually, Barry Alvarez, who's the defensive coordinator at the time, he was recruiting me. He was my recruiting guy for that area. And but Barry had took an opportunity to go to Wisconsin and and things kind of shifted with another guy. Yeah. So it was a great pitch. I went for a visit, and I was sold. I was already sold. It was just the atmosphere was incredible. You could see the guys really had a care and a love for one another. You felt the compassion. It was a family atmosphere. The campus was beautiful. Of course, it was winter time, but it was still beautiful. I was used to it anyway, coming from Chicago, so it didn't matter to me.
Exactly.
But you know what? Notre Dame could have been in Timbuktu, and I still would have went there. But it happened to be just an hour and a half down the road, and I was very fortunate to. It was just a short trip. So
what was the location?
One more time.
What was the location?
Yeah, so it was an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes sometimes away from home, but it was close.
Was that the final? December?
Yeah, but Michigan was it was a close second. So it really came down to Michigan and Notre Dame, and so they were neck and neck. Michigan does a really good job recruiting the Chicago area, and so Les Miles was my recruiting guy, and boy, he was doing a fantastic job recruiting. And so it didn't go that way. I chose Notre Dame, and here we are today.
So you choose Notre Dame, and half of Chicago came with you. Bryant, I mean, you had a ton of people come, right?
I had a ton of people call.
Yeah, you had some other guys come.
Yeah. So that year we had I think this is what you said. There's a kind of an echo. We had an incredible class of guys, my 94 class. You had Aaron Taylor, Jeff Burris, Tim Ruddy, Jim Flanagan, Lake Dawson, Clint Johnson, Brian Hamilton, Oliver Gibson, and those are some of the guys from Chicago. And I could Shane Sadler. So we had a really good class, and a lot of those guys wound up making a contribution right away. Most of the guys lettered, their freshman year playing special teams, and some started. Jeff Burris played a significant role. Tom Carter as well. Jerome Bettis. I know you had Jerome on the show. He was in my class.
Wow.
They left after their junior year, so we had a really talented bunch of guys. And then Kevin McDougal, who was a quarterback, who just came on. He was already talented, just real crafty guy, but did a phenomenal job his senior year, just leading our team offensively. So
did you have other guys come from Chicago?
Yeah, so Oliver Gibson, Pete Persich, Brian Hamilton, and I may be missing one other one. But then the other Midwest guys was Shane Sadler, who was from Iowa, and then Flanagan, who was from Southern Door, Wisconsin, near Green Bay. Yeah, but we had a really tight class, and we just had a lot of fun. We grew, we just love being around each other, and we stay in touch. We try and do a really good job just staying in touch. Not only our class, but with other student athletes and from other classes as well.
So, what was it like coming from your area going to Notre Dame?
It was actually, we had a really good they're probably better, but we had a good high school, public high school.
Okay.
So I actually had like I said, there was another ball player, Chet Laheta, had went to Notre Dame before us, but we had a non-student athlete who had went to Notre Dame as well, and her name was Kim Dawson. So I kind of knew her a little bit. So we had a little bit of history there. It was a blue collar town. It was great support there. Like I said, Chicagoland area, you get a lot of Notre Dame fans and alumni based there. So just a great place to come from and then be a part of Notre Dame.
Half the team came from Chicago, right? I mean, did you room with anybody? Did you see him at banquets and stuff? How did that work?
Yeah, so So on my recruiting trip, my roommate was LaShane Sattler.
Okay.
And, yes, Shane was from Waterloo, Iowa.
Okay.
Just was a cool kid, cool guy.
I remember him, right?
Yeah. So there was a couple guys on our recruiting trip that we just clicked. I remember seeing Aaron. Aaron was, this goofy kid from California. He had this big old Russian-looking hat and this big fluffy down goose feathered coat on in the wintertime. And a few other guys. And so we just had a good time, but we quickly formed a bond once we all got on campus and started rolling.
So, I mean, you guys had a ton of success there. What is give me one of your favorite non-athletic moments on the campus or during your time at Notre Dame?
Okay. Favorite non-athletic moment. It had to do something around athletics, but it was non-athletic. And so
go for it.
I remember we came out. So this is how tight our class was. So we decided as a class that most of the guys were going to shave their heads to start spring ball.
Okay.
So we go out, everybody shaved their head. It had probably about 12 to 15 strong in our class that shaved their heads. I had this, this Norelco 3-head shaver that I took to my head, and I just went to work. It was about as clean as it is now. And
nice.
It was the first time I ever shaved my head, right?
Okay.
Clean. And so we go out, we just, it was like, man, it was bond, brothers of Notre Dame, and solidarity. We're a band of dudes, and we're going to be united as a class.
Sure.
And so by day 2 or 3, man, my head just started to just get and then it got inflamed and started getting ingrown hair. It was just and so we're in spring ball, and so we're practicing, and I couldn't just keep taking my helmet on and off. It was painful. So I would just, at the beginning of the practice, I put my helmet on, and I wouldn't take it
the whole practice.
Yeah, so it was a lesson learned. Okay, don't ever play with a Norelco razor.
Wow.
So that was a non-athletic moment around athletics.
Okay, so what was a memorable moment for you athletically during your time there?
You know what? I tell you what, Chris. When you were a captain, you can attest to this. Having the opportunity to see how it's supposed to be done, and that's with the upperclassmen before you. You guys did a great job, really passing the torch. Yourself, Devon McDonald, who's a great friend of mine, and just all the captains that year, their freshman, sophomore year, junior year, just kind of set the precedence. And then I had the opportunity to be a Notre Dame captain, and that was really, really awesome for me to be able to lead our team and our class and our younger guys through that season, that 93 season. And so I took that, I wore that badge of honor with pride, and it's something that I will always cherish as a leader and captain for the Notre Dame football team. And I also have an opportunity to play in some monumental games. There are a couple that I remember right off the bat, and that's
please do tell. Do tell.
Man, I know that's a memorable one for you as well, Chris. And but just almost being close to winning a championship, it came down to one play. And then fast forward to my senior year, we're playing. We're undefeated. We probably weren't the most talented team, but we were really, really tight as a senior class. And but we just played with the togetherness. Everybody did, not just the seniors, but everybody did. But our class was really tight. And so it was great leadership. And we had an opportunity to play in the first ever game day. In fact, game day was started versus Notre Dame versus the Florida State game. And I was like, man, what is this? Like this, they were really building this game up, 1 versus 2, the game of the century. And so it was just exciting to be able to play in a game of that magnitude in college. And it definitely lived up to his billing. And then
So I had a great experience. For us, it was the Miami game.
mm-hmm.
And so I could remember my favorite part on campus was on game day when we had our team mass. And we were cramped up in some small dorm parish, and I remember making that walk, and I remember everybody was laser focused, but I mean I remember the game because I saw it. Like, I don't remember much of the game, but I remember like all the people I saw, all the steps I took, because for me it was like going into war. And I had my guys with me, and at that point, I felt invincible. And I mean, I would just love to get your take on kind of what the camaraderie was in the locker room right before the game, if you remember, but also kind of maybe what that week was like going into that game.
So just leading up to a week, it was always a little looser. You get the game plan early and you go out there and try to practice. There's some mistakes that's going to be made in practice, whether it's, understanding what defense we're going to run that week,
right?
And their concepts, their tendencies, their play concepts that we had to understand and get. And it was all memorization. So by Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to the game, you get more. You're like kind of unsure. You're sure of what you can do, but you're unsure about your opponent because you're facing this opponent. But as the week goes along, and then you're getting these messages from Lou, who's a great player, inspiring you, and he's like knocking you down, then he builds you back up, and by the end of the week, you just feel like you can run through a brick wall. And so, but it's funny but when you go back and look at those opportunities, the focus. Especially, how it starts and then leading up to the game. And you can see how very critical and important it is for each person that was on that team. But, on game day, it was often you could hear a pin drop, pregame. Guys understanding what was important. You didn't have guys walking around cocky, playing music out loud. You may have had some guys with some headphones on. This is probably a little different now. That's the culture, and I get that.
Sure.
And you adapt and you change for sure. But just talking about how we did it back in the day, it was like that. And so it was like the calm before the storm. And you had this, this football team that had, the coaches had poured into them. The guys grasped it and took ownership of the game plan. And now it's just a matter of them going out there and playing with the confidence that they have. And so, once that team was let out the tunnel, man, it was just a bunch of guys out there just fighting and battling for each other and for that Golden Dome. Was that Florida State game? Was that your most memorable game when you were there? Yeah, absolutely. It was because this Florida State team, it was they could do no wrong. They were the number one team in the country, and they were fast, they were athletic, they had some size, and at the time, we're a disciplined team, and we just felt like we didn't match up well against them. But I tell you what, just to go to show you, just in terms of preparation and taking ownership of the game plan and your own ability and having confidence in that. The beginning of the week, we didn't feel like, how we're thinking, how are we going to beat this team? Like, these guys are what they are.
Wow.
Like, what they were all built up to be.
Right.
And so, Lou played a mind game on us. He let us believe that we probably weren't going to beat them. But slowly he kept putting and building us up and instilling in us that we can do it. And he had the messages for it, after every practice. And then by the time the game came, you just felt like, how much are we going to win by? That's the fun that we had.
That is great.
Was, for sure, one of the most memorable games for me. And, had a big game defensively. It did come down to the last play of the game with the pick, I think, by Jeff Burris.
Yeah.
But the game lived up to its billing. We played stout and firm on offense. Defensively, we did a good job. We had some big plays on defense. But they were a good football team, so it did come down down to the last play for sure.
So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Draft day.
Yeah.
Were you with your family? Do you have friends over? What was that environment like?
Yeah, so I did have family, friends over. I did get an invite, to go to New York that year. And so, I'm a behind the scenes type of guy. I didn't want to be in front of all
Sure.
You know what? Thank you, but I'm going to pass on this opportunity. I'd rather be at home with my family in an environment that I'm comfortable with at the time. And so that's what I did. I didn't go to New York. I stayed home with my family and friends. And it was just a great opportunity, great time to be around them. Because when you think about all that has transpired, from coaches to friends to family, all the support, everybody's a part of that,
Exactly.
I wanted them to have a chance to be a part of that. And so I was home. And so when I got that call at the 7th pick, it was a dream come true for me. I grew up a Bear fan. I'm not gonna lie. I did grow up a Bear fan, but I'll tell you what, it was because of those games that the Bears played against the 49ers in the playoffs. That's when I became a really big 49er fan. And so to be able to get drafted to a team that you really love, it was definitely a dream come true for me.
So you had probably one of the longest careers of a defensive tackle I've ever seen in the NFL. There was 1 year he had injury. I want to talk about that actually, but 14 years. I mean, that's a really long time.
Yeah.
For anybody, and for a defensive tackle, that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It was, as you know, Chris, being in the trenches, man, it's unforgiving, right? Like it is a dirty job. Right? It is a thankless job at times. Like you got to go work, right? And sometimes you can make the plays on your own, but sometimes and a lot of times it's also you need your buddy to be where he's supposed to be so you can make the play.
Sure, exactly.
That's critical, right? But it's a dirty job. I enjoyed playing in the trenches. And it was fun. And just thinking back on it, I was really blessed, just in terms of being able to play as long as I have, learning how to take care of my body as I got older. When I may have, slowed down a little bit, I got smarter in terms of, my recovery, my rest,
sure.
and how I trained. Those things all changed and I adapted, and that allowed me to play for 14 years. And, and then also to overcome a serious injury that almost caused my career to end early.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because you actually broke your leg.
I did, yeah. I broke it in 2 places.
Monday Night Football, right?
Yeah, Monday. It was broke my tib fib. It was November 30th, 1998 against the New York Giants. And so, man, I was having a good year, at that time. I was leading the defensive tackles and sacks, and was off to a really great start. And we're playing the Giants, and I go to rush the quarterback, and he sees me coming. He scrambles, he shoots up the middle, and then he goes to slide. Once I retreated and retraced my steps to go try and tackle him, he slid. And so as he was sliding, I was pulling up. I planted my leg in the ground. And a linebacker was converging out of coverage, and he kind of pulled on me. And it was just the timing of it, the angle of my leg, and when I planted and him coming at the angle he did, just wasn't a great combination. But that's what happened. But I had by the grace of God, just through hard work and perseverance, and just having some fortitude and some love for what I do. Well,
hold on. I remember the image of you putting your finger, your thumb up. Are you at that point, and you probably don't even remember because you're probably in shock, but do you remember going, I at least got to put my thumb up. I at least got to show them I'm okay. I at least got to show them I'm okay. Was it?
Yeah, that was
like. Do you remember that?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that's kind of, because you have fans that are really concerned, families really concerned, and the people that are watching as well.
Right.
So you want to try to get them, some assurance that you're at least okay, you're breathing. But I was in a lot of pain. I'm like, hurry up, get me out of here. Need some meds.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
but here's the amazing thing. So you actually the next year, you made this amazing comeback. So you were the NFL Comeback Player of the Year. But what was that rehab like? And what was the idea of being able to recover from something that people either don't recover from, or it takes longer than the period of time that you did because you came back and played the next year?
Yeah, Chris, this was an injury that my career, like I said, was it was in jeopardy of being over.
Sure.
I had a setback. So right after the surgery, I had complications. I had compartment syndrome. And so I wound up spending 17 days in the hospital, almost lost my leg.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Some of my vitals weren't in great shape at the time, so I was in ICU for a couple days. So, fast forward, they wound up doing a fasciotomy. I had to keep my leg cut open on both sides for over a week to allow the pressure and the swelling to go down. And I came out of surgery with a titanium rod in my tibia, and I didn't know the extent of my, what was going on because I was heavily sedated, and so it probably wasn't until, gosh, I don't know, a week being in the hospital. I remember the nurse coming into my room. She was like, "Okay, it's time for your bandage change." I'm like, "Bandage change?" I'm like, what are you talking about? I knew I had a titanium rod in my leg, and it's just a little cut and maybe whatever. Right. But she came in there with all this stuff. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what is all this for? And so when she pulled the covers off of my leg, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't.
So that was the first time you saw it.
Yeah, it was the first time I saw it, and so it was a sight to see. It was a painful procedure to change the bandages. You had to keep it wet and packed with saline gauze. And so I went through that. So I overcame that, and I wound up getting out of the hospital after 17 days, and couldn't walk for 3 months, and three or 4 months. And so rehab was really, really tedious and slow. I never was casted. They put a titanium rod in. I just, when I could, I started walking with a cane, and it was in a wheelchair for most of that. And then with the walker for part of it as well. And so when I started rehab, it was just kind of starting all over and learning how to walk again and my balance. And then I had a discrepancy in the length of my legs because, the rod, I guess, had, separated the bone a little bit. So I had about an inch discrepancy. So I had to overcome that and learn how to, adjust to this new little height that I had.
On what side? Oh my God.
Yeah. And so it was a long off season. It was no camp. It was no mini camps, no camp. And when I finally could start running and doing some conditioning and change of directions, I couldn't do 2 days back to back without my legs swelling up. And so I felt like, man, things weren't going anywhere. And then finally I just saw a glimmer of hope, and I started turning the corner and just saw a light at the end of the tunnel. And so it wasn't until the first game of the 99 season and matter of fact, we played Jacksonville Jaguars. And so that was my first really first time in pads. Yeah. That week of. So I had gone the whole off season not practicing. And then I go to week 1 and I get a chance to just do a couple plays in 907 and a couple pass rushes. And that was it. And I didn't even practice a full week because my leg kept swelling up. And so, but during that time, I mean, obviously you have a wonderful family, but I mean, were they supportive? I mean, were they making you like,
bag lunches? Were they keeping you positive? Or were you like this cranky guy who was like, get away from me. I need to get better. Like what was that like?
I went through all of the gamuts of emotions. I was irritable, and people were getting tired of me. But I will say, through the support of my family, friends, my teammates were incredible. The organization, the 49 organization, was incredible. But the fans were awesome. And I got to say this too, like they do a lot. It's because of our fans. In the NFL, in this game, it really drives it. And so they mattered. They were an encouragement to me. And so I had a support system that allowed me to give me inspiration and encouragement to keep moving forward. So it meant a lot to me. And so that first game was very, very ginger. It was kind of shell shock. I had to not only come over a physical injury, but I had to come over a mental.
Of course, absolutely.
Because I was a little timid running around piles, and if I cut, was it going to be okay? Was it somebody going to run into my leg? And so it wasn't until about the middle of the year, Chris, I started feeling like my old self. And so that's when I saw, things kind of, take a turn for the better in terms of just being, just letting it loose and not being afraid to do certain things. And so it wound up being a good year, and I was very fortunate to win the Comeback Player of the Year that year.
We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, I want to talk about the 49ers organization. From what I've seen, just from an outsider, it's a really top-notch class organization, and I think from what you've been saying, you kind of feel that way too. You obviously know a little bit more about it than I do, but I want to get your take on the organization when we come back. Okay?
Absolutely.
This is Chris Zorich. Being part of some very successful teams, what I valued most was the collaboration and the chance to work toward common goals. Comar, derived from the Gaelic word meaning collaboration. Comar Partners is a recognized leader in retained executive search, professional recruiting, and talent advisory services. We are trusted advisors to our clients. We view our work on behalf of our clients as mission critical, and with the knowledge that a great resulting hire will have a direct effect on our clients' businesses. It's time to collaborate, cultivate, and connect. Why choose Comar Partners? The difference is clear. We lean in and have a tenacious approach to our work through innovation, knowledge management, process execution, and an industry-leading team of professionals. As part of every search, we provide a compensation analysis, a third-party executive assessment, and one-on-one onboarding and acculturation coaching.
You're listening to the Zorich Podcast with our guest, Bryant Young. If you'd like to watch this interview and other interviews, please go to my YouTube page at Chris Zorich 50 and click subscribe to get more information. All right, so now you have a chance to give a Super Bowl to an amazing organization. You just made the San Francisco Hall of Fame, San Francisco 49ers Hall of Fame. I mean, what is being in, you never went to any other team. What does it mean for you to be a San Francisco 49er?
Man, it's a badge of honor to be able to wear that brand and the significance and what it really means and stand for. I was sold, and it was a top-down approach, with Eddie DeBartolo and Candy and what they did as a staff, and that permeated throughout the building and the organization, and it started there. Just a compassion, loved winning, cared for his people, the staff, and the team, and you felt that, and that was passed to the Yorks as well, and you feel that, and so they're doing a phenomenal job. It's with so much history that they've had and the success that they had, the guys and the players and coaches that have come before me, like it's no wonder it's when you feel all that has happened in the past, you feel a responsibility to carry that with care and to carry that with importance and to make sure that you adhere and uphold to the standard and what was built. And so I took pride in that. I took pride in being able to represent the organization for that many years. They were good to me, and I hope I did them great service. It was a good marriage, and I did not have a chance to go free agency. There was a time where I thought I was going to get traded, but that never happened. But it was a good marriage. I wanted to be there. They wanted me there. I had a chance to really build a solid foundation there in the community. My family loved being there, and it was just a good fit. And so, but after leaving and retiring, I wanted to coach, and that moved me around a little bit. And so, but it's just a great organization. They represent so much, stand for all the right things, and just very fortunate that I had the opportunity to represent them and play for them for that many years.
We had Jerome Bettis on a couple weeks ago, and he talked the same way about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And the thing he talked about was family, which you've talked about. And it's so interesting that in a game that's so rough and tough, and you mentioned free agency, a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, but when the players feel that way about the organization, and I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but when you have a lot of players that feel that way about an organization, then you have pride in an organization. I mean, there are a lot of other teams out there that guys just getting a paycheck, and all they care about is winning. All they care about is getting a paycheck. But what I hear from you and what I hear from Jerome is literally what happens beyond when the season's over. What happens in the community, and it really sounds like those two organizations are parallel in that way. Where, I mean, the 49ers understand their role in the community, and encourage guys to go out there, but more importantly, support their guys when they go out there. And I think that's something really special. And so when you have guys that come back, you have guys that want to come back. You have guys that are willing to leave town or travel from different parts of the country when they're having events, because there's that special bond there.
Absolutely.
And to hear that about professional sports is amazing.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you too, just, when I got hurt, my I think it was fifth year, 98, the owner came out of his suite and he attended to me once they got me in the back at the ambulance, and he wanted to make sure that I was okay. And that wasn't the first time that I saw that happen. It happened with several players that had some really severe injuries. William Floyd was one of them that I remember. He was in my rookie draft class. And you talk about just genuine compassion and care for people, that was him. And so when you see that happen, it's no wonder why players love playing for people like that, because they know that they truly care. And you see that it's carried on with Dr. York and York and Denise York as well. And they're doing an amazing job. They are about what their players are concerned with. And so when you look at the things that they're involved in terms of the 49er Foundation and being a part of the community, they get it in that way. And so, again, you want to make sure that you are, pouring into the community, but as well, but they do have a care for their players. They have a compassion for their players, and they're about what the players are about as well.
So what was it like winning a Super Bowl with the 49ers? I mean, that had to be an amazing experience.
It was awesome. Just having a chance to one, I was thrown in the fire right away. I was like, okay, you're starting. But, it wasn't because I got drafted, because I didn't see people that get drafted in the first round and they don't start because they're not there yet. And so
That's true.
It wasn't like, hey, you drafted, you gonna just start. But I was like second, third team. I still had to earn it. Now I understood, it was like, okay, you're first rounder, but I did the work. And so I played a role on that team, and we had a great, a supporting cast of role players and teammates, and but it was a responsibility. I understood that they brought me here for a reason. I wanted to make sure that I earned the respect of my teammates, and that I did my job because they were counting on me. I was counting on them too. I love winning. It's not like I came from a program.
True. Right.
So
right.
I was used to winning, so that was important to me. But I wanted to make sure I earned the respect of my teammates. It was a fun ride, just to be around, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and William Ford, Ricky Waters, who I played with, who's another Notre Dame guy, just a lot of Hall of Famers, Richard Dent, Ricky Jackson. Charles Mann. It was just a lot of guys. Deion Sanders in my freshman rookie year that I played with that were just phenomenal to play with. And so, we go the whole year. It was right when we hit the stretch, when we got our wake-up call against Philadelphia. We had just came off a bye. I'm not sure which week it was, but it was early in the season. And we lose to Philadelphia 40-something-3 or something. It was so lopsided. George Seifert wound up taking Steve Young out the game. Steve was good, and he didn't want to get him hurt. That's why he took him out. But we didn't show up. They showed up. They just handed it to us. And so it was after that game we go to Detroit, and we're almost heading down that same direction where Detroit, and Barry's there. Barry's in his prime. And you know all about Barry, right?
Right.
So we go there. We're having a tough outing, and we're about to lose another game in a row. And so I can't remember who it was. I think it was Tim McDonald. He comes on the sideline, and he gives a spiel on the sideline to the defense, and we stiffen up. We go and make the plays we're supposed to make. Offense scores the points, and we win the game. And we go on a 10-win streak from there. And it was just like we're on the road. It was like our offense was a machine. Defense was playing great. I think a lot of times our defense got overshadowed because our offense was so good. But we had a good defense as well. My second and third year, we wound up being the number one defense and in the top 5 with Pete Paul. But stay back to that rookie year. So we go on and to the playoffs. We play. I can't remember, Dallas first. No, Dallas was the championship game. I think Chicago came to us. We had a bye, Chicago, and then the NFC championship game. That's right, Chris. We played against each other our rookie year.
I don't want to go there because y'all demolished us, but I was hoping you're going to skip that part. Y'all smoked us. Go ahead. Yeah.
That was So we won that game. Then we in the NFC championship game, and this was like the third time we're playing Dallas in the NFC championship game, and it's a must-win game for us because free agency. It was like the big year for free agency. We brought all these different guys in, Deion and Ricky Jackson and Richard Dent, and we had a great draft class, and our offense was rolling. So we felt like we had already beat them in the regular season once. So we felt like, man, this was our game. This is our time.
Right.
So we go out there and play the game. We win it. We go to the Super Bowl, and we play the San Diego Chargers. And they had a great year. They had a really good year, but we felt like during our week of prep, and the way to watch our offense, the way they performed, and the defense focus that everybody had, it was just a matter of how much we're going to win by. We weren't overconfident, but we just felt that good about our chances of winning. It was just a matter of how much we're going to win by. And so going into that game, it was all the fanfare of, the fireworks and those things. And once the whistle blew, kicked the ball off, and it was just a regular game, and we played, and we wound up winning that game 49-26, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a phenomenal year. It was a long year, but I really felt that Notre Dame playing there and having a chance to practice through November, December and you're preparing for a January 1 game,
Sure.
it really did help me in regard, and a lot of other players I probably can attest to this as well, to play a long season. And the transition, it was a lot better probably than most who didn't always prepare for a January 1 bowl.
So you had an amazing 14-year career, and to cap it off, you're now in the semifinal stage of the Hall of Fame voting. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And my understanding is that the announcement will be made after the Super Bowl or before the Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, so they go. So this is a semifinal. It's I think 25, and then so the next
round
is the finalists, and so that'll go from I think 25 to 15, and that'll be before the Super Bowl. So those 15 in that finalist list will go to the Super Bowl. So they go expense paid trip to the Super Bowl, and so it's now kind of wait and see game. You do all these different events. You get a chance to go to the game, but of course they already announced, before the game was ever played, who got in. So that team they picked, 5 from that 15. So we'll see. It was a great experience to make it to the finalist list last year, but definitely understood that just maybe not my time yet. But definitely I'm hopeful that it may happen, and I just pray in God's timing that it will happen, because I feel like everybody feels like they should be there, but I feel like a lot of things that I may have done in my career may have gotten undercredited, and maybe not as publicized as much. But I think the case is being built, and those that are advocating for me are doing a great job, and recognizing the things that I potentially have done that would be deserving of that. So yeah, I'm ecstatic just to be mentioned in the same breath as a lot of the guys who are already inducted and those that are on this list. It's truly an honor. It really is, and I'm humbled by that, and I don't ever take that for granted.
And I just mentioned that you were inducted into the San Francisco 49ers Hall of Fame just recently, right?
So that happened this year as well.
Okay.
Again, another opportunity. When you look at what was set before me, and then having the opportunity to carry that with responsibility moving forward, I'm humbled by that. And so there's a lot of people that I do thank for having that opportunity. My coaches, my teammates, and all that were involved. There were so many people outside of the field in the building that are so important to this whole thing. And so I'm just grateful to have, one, played for this organization for as long as I have, and then two, being enshrined them with some of the great players in the 49er organization. So I'm really thrilled about that one. It goes to show just in terms of the way I feel about them. They rewarded me and feel the same about me. So I'm honored to be among those group of people.
So now you wound up getting the coaching bug for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's an amazing thing. And you started off as a GA.
Yes.
So what folks might not know is you don't just walk in and coach, hey, one day I'm going to coach, and all of a sudden you're coaching for whatever team. I mean, there's almost like a process you have to go through.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, somebody who plays 14 years in the NFL has to become a GA at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And a GA not only breaks down film, but they also got to get coffee and everything else. So can you kind of just tell us how the GA experience was? Because it's hard for me to imagine you GA. I'd go ahead and let you coach somewhere. I don't care.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think for me, I wanted to feel like it wasn't just given to me, and I wanted to feel also that it was humbling. To be in a position like that is humbling for me. And then there's a lot that I needed to learn.
Sure.
It's one thing to be a great player or good player, and you do it well, but now you're on the other side of it. You got to learn how to prepare. You got to learn how to teach, and you got to learn how to motivate. And then being organized and doing all those things, and then game planning, And so there are some things that I had to learn. So that was the best route for me that I felt that I needed to take. But I wanted to make sure that I had an appreciation for it too. So I didn't want to accelerate that and not appreciate having those opportunities by going too fast or given a position that I wasn't quite ready for. And so even then, I'm wondering, like, man, even though I'd played a long time and I'd have a lot of experiences, and I know things, and I could teach you things, and I can, give you things and mentor and do all these different things. But there's just certain things you want to make sure that you got in your tool belt that you need to learn before you really step out with that responsibility, because you got a group of young men that are really in tune and locked into what you're trying to do. So you want to make sure that the messaging is right and that you're giving them, some firm answers to the problems that may come up. But it was a great opportunity, one, to come back and serve my university in that capacity, and to be on the other side of it. It was awesome. And then having the chance to go full time to San Jose State.
I was going to say that. Okay, so then the next year you become a position coach.
Yeah, I become a position coach. I thought, Bryant, it was actually, I was with Charlie's staff, and Charlie was let go, and then Bryant comes in, and Bryant and I had a conversation, and I really appreciate Brian Kelly for taking the time to come and talk to myself and just, present me an opportunity to come back as a graduate assistant again. And I totally understand, not hire me as a coach, because he don't know me, I don't know him.
Right.
He has these guys, he's bringing them, and that's just the right thing to do, and I appreciate that. But to give me time, I appreciate that. And so there was maybe a small chance that I could have been on Brian's staff way back then, but I chose to go to San Jose State, coached there for a year in 2010. And then, we went through some growing pains. It was a very tough, transition, but Mike McIntyre did a phenomenal job with the San Jose State program. It opened up many doors for him, for the school and the predecessors and, guys that came behind him. And so it was, just an awesome opportunity. Again, it was learning, and some of it was on the job training too. Always picking other people's brain. You learn that way, and you're watching, you ask questions, and don't be afraid to do those things. So then I coached there for a year. Then I go to University of Florida for almost 3 years, 2011 through 13. And coached the D-line. I got a chance to coach with Dan Quinn, who actually coached me in San Francisco. So just having that rapport, that relationship, that opened up a door. Him understanding my work ethic and what I'm about, and really kind of vouching for me to be a part of Will Muschamp's staff. And I was very fortunate for that. And then I really got a chance to, do some high-level recruiting. And that was fun, to be able to go in future student athletes' homes and present to their parents opportunities that could open up doors for them. That was fun. But it was also cool just to get to know these young men that I came in contact with, because they're still moldable. They're looking for answers. They don't have all the answers, so they still need coach mentors, and they need the mentors in their life. So that was a cool aspect to be able to do that. So I left Florida in 2013, took a little time away, probably more than
Well, I'd like to hit on that for a second. When you did walk away, it was to take care of some family matters.
Yeah.
One in particular, your son Colby.
Yeah.
Can you kind of share that experience with our audience?
Absolutely. So I didn't initially take a step back because of Kobe, but it wound up being a blessing in disguise that I wasn't working, and I was able to be around and be available to take care of him. But actually, the day before I decided to resign, my brother called me. It was like April 9th, and I resigned April 10th. So he called me the night of April 9th and said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And
Your brother.
Yeah, and so this is the day before I was going to announce that I was resigning to the team. And so, but I resigned for a lot of different reasons. Just, wanted to reset my priorities, spend more time. And I was just kind of out of whack, and I'd never really taken a breath after I retired. And so I was just feeling a little overwhelmed at the time, and just felt like my family needed me. And so that was my reasoning for stepping back. And but to find out my brother had cancer, now I'm available to be a support for him and be along that caretaker journey with him. And so that was a blessing. And then fast forward to 2014, was when my son was diagnosed in September. His name was Bryant Young II. And so he had was complaining of a headache, and I was not coaching, and we were had just moved to Charlotte, and so we took him to the doctor, and the doctor thought that he may have had some growth pains and dealing with some puberty things, and had a severe migraine headache. Sent him twice. We took him twice, and the second time she ordered him to get a CAT scan or MRI, and she wanted us to wait in the office for the results. And not shortly after he was done, the doctor called and said, get Kobe to the hospital. He has a mass on his brain. So we wound up getting all these tests done. He wound up having a golf ball sized tumor on his pineal gland, and had to have surgery. And after surgery, went through radiation and chemotherapy. And we were split between Boston, doing his radiation up there at MGH, and then was able to do his chemotherapy back in North Carolina at Duke. So 4 rounds of chemotherapy once a month for 4 months, 4 rounds. And so we felt good about our treatment plan, and that went through 15, and he was recovering through 15. Summer was going great. He started getting back, and we had recovered from his surgery. He didn't have any, he didn't lose any of his faculties, his cognitive ability from the surgery or from the treatment. And so we just felt really good about what was going on, the progress that he was making.
Now, I was reading an article. Was this around the time he wound up doing his own fundraising?
Yeah. So we go back to school in 15, and he's back to normal. He's okay. So he's just living life, and then he gets this idea. I think he may have saw it somewhere where he wanted to do a fundraiser at his school. And he set out these change buckets. He just wanted to collect change, and he called it Change for Change. And it might not have been a thing that he might have copied it from somebody. That's right. It's a great idea. But he came up with his idea to raise money to help benefit other kids that have pediatric brain cancer. Okay. And so he's raising money for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. Okay. And so he did this, and his goal was only to raise like $2,000. And by the time it was over, he had raised over $50,000. And we were just wow. And we just, man, God is amazing. Like this awesome on your part. You're already going through your ordeal and recovering, but you have the audacity and the thought to say, I want to be other centered, even though I got my own problems. But just looking out for others, that really touched our hearts. Yeah. So then, so we go through the fall of 15, and right around October, November, he had another test done, and the cancer had came back, and so we knew that wasn't going to be good if it came back within the year, and so we rallied again, and at this time, there's not a lot of treatment for when you have a relapse. And so we found this treatment that was kind of new on the cutting edge, immunotherapy, and it just so happened to be being administered at the University of Florida. And so, and Kobe at this time he was a Notre Dame fan too, but he became a Gator fan. So it was kind of a win-win that we got a chance to go down there for his trial, his immunotherapy. And so we spend, a few months down there at a time, and he gets to be in his old culture and his old backyard.
Sure.
As a Gator fan, and so that treatment wound up not working, and so he succumbed to cancer in October 11, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, your family, obviously, great family, great support. I mean, how did you guys handle that type of loss?
You know what? It was tough, Chris. I'm not gonna lie. It's never as a parent do you think you're gonna bury your kid. You think your kids are gonna bury you. That's kind of the natural thought.
Sure.
It's but when you have to lay your child to rest, it's really tough. And as a dad, being a protector, I found something that I couldn't protect them from, and it hurt me as a parent, and that I couldn't protect them, and I couldn't guard them, and so but I could love them. I could be there for them every opportunity I could. Through this whole deal, but I'll tell you what, we got through it through our faith, Chris. Because of our faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, God sustained us. He gave us enough to continue to move forward. And so there were days where they were dark, and there are times where you still think about those times, but God gives us enough to continue to move us forward. And so we're just thankful that at the time we really held on to our faith, and God really saw us through and continued to strengthen us during that process.
Were there any lessons that you personally may have learned going through this process?
Absolutely. Man, just to fight, just being courageous. I learned it from watching my son and how he dealt with his diagnosis and his treatment and how he lived life. To hear stories outside of your family about other people and how they've rallied and their support system, their care team has been around them. And you hear about these stories that are inspiring, but now you're living it and it's your own. And to see it firsthand, it was, in that regard, is nothing short of just amazing to watch him battle and never. Kobe had this gift of, when he got really bad news, it would hurt him like hard. And he had this way of just feeling it, one day, and then the next day it's like, okay, what we got to do? Let's move forward. And so he showed me courage. He showed me just strength in the midst of his tough circumstances. And just his relentlessness, just being just able-bodied and never really allowing himself to become such a downcast during the situation. And it was amazing to see, just his fortitude through it all. It taught me a lot watching him. He became just my new example of strength and courage. And I got a chance to experience that firsthand, just watching him live his life. It's a process, even through, after it's been 4 years now. And, Kobe wanted us to make sure that we never forgot him, and we never would forget him. And every chance we mention his name, and that's important to us, and it's important to him. And so every chance I get, and I appreciate you asking, it's important that we talk about him. That's been our therapy. That helps us process and overcome some of the hurts. Is that his name is not a hush word in our house.
Right.
Laugh about some of the goofy things that he did. He was a kid. And there are times we cry and we miss him, and that's okay, and it's okay to we talk about grieving, and you got to learn how to grieve well, and it's okay to cry. It's not okay to suck it up. I'm gonna be all right. No, it's okay to bear it. Allow the hurt and feel that, so you can process and learn how to heal and move forward. And but we're grateful for the life that he lived, and thankful to God that he gave him to us to care for him during this short time on earth.
Well, and I think it's amazing that you have you and your wife are able to be great examples for your other kids.
Yeah.
And the idea that they lost someone as well.
Absolutely.
But they're able to see how mom and dad are handling it.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there's good days, there's bad days, but when you have this positive influence around you all the time, that has to help. And in those experiences, I'm sure your family cherishes every second of everyone's life, right? Everything's a celebration for you guys, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a great point you bring up about just parenting and being together. This losing a child can be very hard on marriages, and we were determined to stand arm in arm and be locked together and march together, not only for us as a couple, a married couple, but for our kids. It was important because they're hurting too, and what hurts me is that they hurt because they lost a sibling too.
Right.
So that was important that we stayed together, not only as a family, but as a married couple to get through all of this, because we had to be there for our kids, and there are moments too. My 8-year-old, he remembers his brother, as well, and he's now having moments, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like, okay, embrace that, like, feel that. Like, yeah, I like it, man. It touches me, and that's therapy for me, when we have those moments, and he's able to kind of remember some things and get emotional behind it. And so there's a word that I wanted to mention that my son really taught me. It was contentment.
Okay.
He really, when things were taken away from him, he became content with being doing the next thing, and that was okay with him. And sometimes we think we need a lot. We think we need certain things to have a lot, and he showed me that you only need a little to have a lot. And so he became content with certain things, and so that was another lesson that I learned.
And to think he was so young and he's teaching an old man like you, huh?
Man, I'm telling you, there was some lessons, man, and they're still ongoing for sure. Wow.
Now, you guys, I saw a PSA you guys did for the Pediatric
Brain Tumor Foundation.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you came in that ride. That was awesome, man. Band of brothers of
hey, man. Absolutely, man.
Motorcycle ride up in Wisconsin. That was one of the best rides I've been on for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. They did a phenomenal job. But we did a PSA for them. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that was fun to do. But we feel the responsibility to be a beacon of light and to wave the flag for this cause, and so to be able to in some special way mention them and hopefully bring attention to a cause that affects so many lives. It's important to us. So my wife has become a board member for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation.
Okay, great.
I'm a special ambassador. I
Okay.
was a board member, and then we basically just switched roles. Because I became a full-time board member before I started coaching with the Falcons, and then when I started coaching, I knew that my time was going to be limited and I wouldn't be available. And so the natural thing to do, and she weighed the decision is to flip roles, and that was a smooth transition. So she's doing a phenomenal job on the board. It's a hard-working board. They do a great job. And then I'm, just an advocate and a, special ambassador for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. So
that's awesome.
So if you guys feel compelled to give and to help those that are in need, even through this pandemic, it's been tough for a lot of us. But there are kids today that are still affected by this deadly disease. And so if you feel in your heart and if you feel led to do something, go to PBTF, the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and see if that's something that you would be willing to give to.
Nice.
Cure and thrive.
Nice. Now, you guys also were involved in an organization that you guys started, the Young Dreamers.
Yeah. So the Young Dreams Foundation, we started that in '99, and and so and that was something that I learned a long time ago. My dad just being very involved in the community and mostly through the church that we belonged to growing up. Whether it was feeding the homeless or ministering the gospel to those that are spiritual poverty. Mm-hmm. That's a thing. And but to see that example that he laid out for us, and so it was something that we wanted to do. So I was in a position where we were able to start our own foundation, and started that in '99, the Young Dreams Foundation, and we basically raised money, and we gave free football clinics, mostly at my old high school at Bloom. We contributed to different athletic programs. And then more importantly, we the money that we raised, it went through a class of students that we adopted from this middle school at the 49er Academy. And so when they graduated, we stayed in touch with them all the way through high school, and the money that we raised and those that were that took advantage of this opportunity, we had money for them when they wanted to go to school. And out of 47 students, we had about 11 students that took us up on the offer and went to 4-year school, 2-year schools. So we're really proud of being able to do something like that, and just taking a step further and just being a little bit more hands-on. So we're thankful to a lot of people that helped in that contribution with the 49er Academy.
Well, speaking about one of those individuals, actually, a couple weeks ago, I had Tom Mendoza on the show, and when I told him that we was going to have you, he was all excited. He was like, I'm going to watch. And he told me that, like, back in the day, he assisted you with that organization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then you also came and talked to his crew too.
Yeah, Tom, man. He's a great guy. I happened to watch, I was flipping through social media, and I caught that he had just did your show. Okay. And I was just, he had me. I was locked in. Every time Tom talks, I just want to, I'm interested in what he has to say.
He's amazing.
So just full of energy, very insightful, fun to be around. But Tom was a big part of our organization, just being a support for us in the community. So he partnered with our foundation in the Bay Area, and we're so thankful to Tom and NetApp for what they did for us back then. Just phenomenal work, and a big, huge heart that he has for the community and getting involved.
Yes, he is amazing. So now let's fast forward to just a little bit. So you went back to coaching for a little bit.
Yeah. So
did you not get it out of your system? I mean, what is this with you coaching? This is crazy.
Yeah, it was I had left, and I felt like I had, it was still in me. I wanted to get back out there. And so I didn't go back to college. I went back to the pros.
Right.
So in 2016, I thought that may have been an opportunity to start getting back in, and I started going out to Atlanta, where Dan Quinn was. He was the head coach now, and he had invited me out to come and help and just be around and just observe or whatever. So I took advantage of that opportunity. I went out there and just hung around and helped coach and mentor, coach some guys and give some advice here and there with some of the guys. And that was fun. And it was like, man, okay, let's go.
I know.
But my son had already been, his diagnosis had changed again, and
okay.
The door had shut, and then I had to step away from that opportunity. And Dan was again very understanding and kept the door open. And so when my son passed, and I think there's enough time for me to kind of heal and get myself together. He invited me to come back out and coach again. So I did that in 2017 to 2019. Coached 2 seasons in Atlanta. Yeah.
So I mean, is this your future? I mean, is this something that you want to do again? I mean, because this is a lot.
Yeah, it's always.
I mean, it's the hours, man. It's the hours.
Yeah, it's about the right situation. I love the recruiting part, but it's you got to go recruit. It's part of the job, and I love the coach mentor part in college. You still get that aspect in the pros. Guys are young. You get young guys that are still trying to find their way, and they need some guys that could continue to help speak into their life, and that's important. And it's still great to be involved in the game. And then the other aspect is that you're not recruiting, but it's fun, and the stakes are a little higher in the NFL. So, I say with the right opportunity and location, the perfect storm, I'm all ears.
Okay, everybody's listening. He's ready.
Give a shout out to Charlotte Christian High School here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Jason Eastep is doing a phenomenal job with this program. Over the last 15 years or so, coaching, they've won, I don't know, maybe almost 10 championships, 7 to 10 championships. And so I had the opportunity to go volunteer coach this year, and just had a blast in high school, and just working with these group of young men, and wound up winning a championship. Through the pandemic, we had some restrictions that we were able to work around, and we coached around it. But the private schools were able to play, and some of the public schools didn't play, and we were fortunate to have a season. But I had a chance to continue to move forward in coaching, and it was a lot of fun. I got a chance to work with my son, who played freshman ball, who potentially may be something in D.
Watch out if you're listening.
Notre Dame.
No, so as we wind down, one of the things. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but great job with the guys. They won it was their 4th championship in a row, and I was just excited to be a part of that. Just a small part.
One of the things I thrive on when I talk to people is what is your take on leadership? How do you define leadership?
Wow, you got to be willing to serve. That leadership is servanthood. Okay. And I really think that good leaders, they are willing to roll their sleeves up and get down and dirty. And there are some people that are great delegators, that can talk and motivate you, that can say all the right things and inspire you. Those things are important, but to me, there's some of the best leaders that I've been around. They're not afraid to get dirty and show you how to do it. And I really appreciate that leadership style.
I mean, having a chance to be around some Lou Holtz, your coach of the pros. I mean, your son's taught you a lot. I mean, it's great because it sounds like you're still learning.
Absolutely.
And as someone that teaches others, I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say life is all about learning. You never stop learning.
And I think it's great because from someone who teaches and someone who coaches, you're still willing to learn. And I think that is a definition of a great leader as well.
Absolutely, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. And, servanthood, but with that for sure, Chris, you have to, as a leader, you have to continue to be moldable and shapeable. The moment you're not taking it in and you begin to guard and protect what you think you know and have the answers to, that could stifle you. Those are not good leaders. But those that are willing to humble themselves and are willing to grow, those are some really, really good leaders. So I admire that quality in leaders as well. I think that's a really good trait to have. And hopefully, as life continues to move forward, I'll learn a ton more because we're all leaders in our own right. As
very true.
As husbands, as pillars of the community and whatever you may be involved in. And so you have a chance to lead in some aspect. And so you have a chance to also exude some of those traits that we're talking about.
Well, sir, thank you so much. This has been awesome. And thank you for pushing me my senior year because I was so terrified that I was going to lose my spot. So you made me play harder. You don't know that, but you made me play harder. This has been great. And thank you so much for sharing and allowing us to kind of walk in your shoes for a little bit. I think hearing your stories, your successes, overcoming some things, is just an amazing example for us to follow. So thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. I apologize for the technical difficulties in the beginning, but we obviously made up for that. Dude, you've been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to thank everybody watching on Facebook Live. And most of all, my wonderful mom and daughter team of Candy and Kylie. They've been great. This podcast, along with other podcasts that we've had, will be on my YouTube page at Chris Zorich 50. If you like them, please check them out and hit subscribe. And when we get finished with this one will be on YouTube as well. Brother, it's been great. Absolutely. And I thank you very much. You had a chance to kind of really take this not only to, we didn't talk about sports a lot. We talked about what makes people. Yeah. And I think your story has inspired folks, but being so genuine and willing to share your story is just phenomenal. So thank you very much. I know that took a lot out of you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Chris, to be able to speak and share my story. And, like I said, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning even how to be a little bit more open and be more transparent because we all go through things and even through our pains, man, our pains can be the best lessons for a lot of, not only for you, but a lot of other people. And so
absolutely.
Being willing to share those things is important to me and being transparent about it, is important too.
All right, brother. Please tell your wife thank you very much for allowing me to take up some of your time. Dude, you are great. I look forward to seeing you again, brother.
Yeah, likewise, Chris. You take care, man. Love you, brother.
All right, brother. Be good. Love you too, man. Thank you.